Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conservatish episode 15? Maybe 116? I don't know. My name is Peter Feliciano, and you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano, on Twitter at Rule62Peter. You can find me on TikTok at Peter_Feliciano. And you can support this podcast and my music at patreon.com/conservatish. Make sure you subscribe, share, rate, review, and leave an angry comment. Ladies and gentlemen, Sara Jane of Ladybug. Yay.
Hi.
How are you, Sara?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very, very good. We know each other, not well, but we know each other. Is it Sara Jane or Sarah? Just Sara people?
Most people call me Sara Jane. Okay. But I'm game for either.
You're game for either. Yeah. Are you from the South? Because it feels like a Kentucky thing to be Sara Jane. It does sound like a Southern name. Sarah Jane.
So it's my first name and middle name, but because there's so many Sarahs floating around,
right?
Sara Jane kind of became a thing.
Right. Is there an H on the end or no?
No, 2 4-letter words.
Well done. Well done.
I'm very OCD, so it would bother me if there was an H and then the Jane, it just wouldn't work.
I'm glad I cleaned before you came over. Now, before we get into the conversation, do you have anything to promote? Where can people find you?
It's a good question. Yeah. TheLivingBlog.net is my website, which is under construction, although people can go there easy breezy, but I am adding a Ladybug page because Ladybug Productions is my big exciting venture at the moment.
Okay, great.
The Living Blog is one of Ladybug's projections.
Okay, but it's not ladybugproductions.1. It's like .com. It's the
right now. It's the livingblog.net, and we're adding a Ladybug page.
The royal we.
Yes.
Fantastic. You're so fancy.
I try.
You're not from the South, but where are you from?
I'm from Poughkeepsie. What? It's 2
there's no
hours
need to be
north
like,
of here.
Well, okay, but there's no need to be like,
issues,
what?
But I love it. Well, it's like my hometown. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's got a lot of issues, but my heart will always be there.
What are the issues in Poughkeepsie?
Oh man, how do I always wind up in this conversation? It's sort of always on the brink of revitalization, and I'm not sure that it actually revitalizes.
Do you think
Yet
it maybe
it's a lovely place,
to?
Everybody. A lot of people apparently moved there like during COVID time.
Poughkeepsie.
You know. Okay. Well, I mean, I think more people probably moved to Woodstock, New Paltz area, but Poughkeepsie got a little more play apparently during COVID.
All right. So that makes 2 of us. Now, question: when did you move here?
I came here in 2015, chasing a guy.
Okay. I've done that before. Well, not chasing a guy, but chasing a relation. I moved for a relationship.
So I was in San Francisco. I lived many different places.
Right.
Lived abroad, lived lots of different places. Was in San Francisco for 11 years.
Yeah.
And
that's where you met our mutual friend.
No, I met her here, actually.
Oh, my God.
I know. We've been in both locations, but we've only known each other here, and you've been in both locations, too.
I have.
I went to San Fran because I was doing a Buddhist practice where I lived my life for a year as if I were going to die at the end of the year.
Fantastic. Question. Let's dig a little bit into this because I do like this idea.
Into this.
I saw some meme earlier making fun of faux Buddhists. That seems like you got legit ass into it.
Oh, I got into it. It started with, it's been 20 years in the making. I've been meditating for about 20 to 40 minutes a day for 20 years. Okay. I did a 28-day silent retreat, and that's what introduced me to the practice of living your life for a year as if you're going to die. Fantastic. At the end of that year. And I chose to move to San Francisco May 14th, 2005, which was my death, quote, date.
Okay.
And then lived there for 11 years, came back chasing a guy. Right. I usually say his name because it's a big 4-word name, but maybe I should restrain myself.
It's completely up to you. And I can cut it out if you really want.
It's such a tempting name. I mean, I've said it in shows. He knows I flaunt this name all over. Okay. But I'll try to be good.
Okay, no problem. You're on the wrong show to be good. So you did that. Now, do you, when you look back, because we can get into maybe some of the more emotional sides of that, but when you look back at chasing a guy, do you feel like that was a deflection or from the practicing spiritual awareness or whatever?
No. Hell no. Okay. It was like desire. Which is not quote unquote Buddhist, but desire is also a practice that I enjoy.
Sure. Yeah.
And I went for it. And you know, as I recall him saying now, he was like, I was a conduit, which he kind of was. I mean, he brought me back to New York where I wanted to be.
Okay. Yeah. And how long did you last when you got here?
A month.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. 1 month.
So
we broke up within a month of my arrival. He left
and you weren't
for
living
Denmark
there to go
the
there.
day I arrived.
Wow.
Oh, yes,
okay.
he did.
All right.
And then I was meant to stay with my second cousin that I call an auntie for a couple of years, and I ended up staying. I mean, for a couple of weeks, and I ended up staying for.
Did you live together?
I did.
You and him lived together?
No,
with the dude.
auntie. No, I ended up living with Linda.
Okay. I remember you reminded me because I was actually talking about a different person that I moved for. I didn't move for this person, but this person helped me move back from Oregon to California in 2010 because we were already... it was the only time that I know of that I've been lightly cheated on, but... Lightly, because 6 months ago, here's what I mean. 6 months prior, she had actually been in a relationship and had made out with me while she was in that relationship, and I didn't know technically, but when I found out, I didn't mind. Not that I'm above it technically. I mean, my listeners are like, motherfucker, you ain't changed for shit. But I'm trying. I just really like being the other man. But anyway, but my experience was this lady and I talked for, about 4 or 5 months, multiple times, sometimes twice a day, sometimes once a day, sometimes, 5 times a week or whatever. But we got into this rhythm of, yeah, this would be great. And I miss you. And we're, phone fucking and we're all that stuff. And then when it came time, she was not necessarily what I moved for, but she was just the catalyst, not even the conduit. She was the catalyst because I had already been planning on moving back to the Bay because Portland sucked balls, and my family was down in the Bay, and my friends were down in the Bay, and my home base, whatever. And I had moved up to Portland to run away from some financial wreckage. I was 21. What was it? It was what you do when you're 21. And so I had moved up there and then moved back because... she was like, oh, yeah. She was excited. Let's get into the relationship, blah, blah, blah. She actually drove up to Oregon and helped me move my shit back to the Bay. Mm. And I'll just tell this story because you said dirtiness is fine. She was the only person who's ever given me roadhead who was driving at the time.
What?
So she put it in cruise control. I held the steering wheel and she sucked my dick.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah, little gymnastics shit. But anyway, I got to the Bay and then noticed, I didn't know this because I was only, 23 at the time and I wasn't as emotionally mature. But I was like, yeah, this isn't a good fit. Like, sex is okay, but like everything else is just kind of niceties and shit. Like, there's not any depth. We had depth on the phone. We had depth nowhere else. And so when we split up, I think we split up like 2 months after I moved, and then it was like, oh yeah, what the fuck was I doing in that, Yeah.
But it did bring you back to the Bay.
It did.
And yeah, these kind of things can happen.
These kind of things can happen. And I have no, malice or ill will towards her.
Same.
Yeah. Because she had actually, the way she got out of the relationship was, I found out later, because the guy was a spiteful dick. And was mad at me. I think he was mad at her and then mad at me because he had originally found out that I had made out with her when she was kind of in a relationship with him. So I guess they had hooked up while she and I towards the tail end of that 2 months, or right at the end. And so he like hit me up. I can't remember the exact particulars, but he pretty much told me that she had cheated on me with him. And like put it under the guise of like, I need to make amends to you for I was just like, okay. We had already been broken up, a year at that point or more.
Interesting.
Wherever that guy is, I hope
for the guy.
Well, he also was not in a healthy place and had soon after that relapsed. I hope wherever he's at, he's sober and healthy and, doing better.
As are you, sober and healthy. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am. 20 years sober 2 days ago.
So many congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing. What's that like?
Well, it's like a lot of things. I think it's long and it's short at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's long because there's so many different chapters of my life and my recovery and my spirituality and my, my everything since getting sober and whatever. I don't feel like I really came online, I mean, I was also 15 when I got sober, but, I don't know if I think I came online, but still at the same time, like there's something different about, since then it does feel like a million years away. And also like it's been like, when I look at like, when I have my perspective, what's the opposite of rose-colored glasses? When I have my shitty perspective, I'm like, I still act like this at 20 years sober, or like I've been meditating for X long, and what, but it's just my, present myopia, and when I think about the different levels and the different maturation and the different depths I've gone into and relationships I've had and whatever, I don't have any regrets. I don't have any wishing that anything had gone any different. It's very long, and it's also very short at the same time. So
interesting. And when you say I don't think I came online, what does that mean?
I have, when it comes to like my childhood, I remember some things, but I don't seem to remember as much as other motherfuckers.
I see.
Like I sometimes hear people say like, oh, I remember when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I'm like, I don't think I remember anything.
I remember like getting my mom chasing after me to get a diaper on me. And I have a scar went from when I ran into the dresser because I didn't want to wear the diaper. Yeah, Jesus. And I remember sitting in my crib. Yeah, I remember.
I don't remember any of that fucking
Interesting.
shit.
So coming online is like when you start recalling.
Yeah, start recalling stuff, start having stuff that can be kind of recalled. I don't feel like I had, like it's any repression. That's the thing.
Okay. I
don't feel like it's any repression because, I've had so much work already done, and I've been sober for, a long time. So it's not like my conscious could have turned all of that off in order to keep me, shielded from it. It's possible, but I highly doubt it because of the openness and the digging that I've already done. Mm-hmm. But I think, and this is going to sound a little, I swear I'm not trying to be egotistical, but I feel like there's so much activity in my brain already that maybe it just kind of pushes shit aside. It's like, yeah, we don't have time. We've got stuff to work on. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it'll come back in sense memories. It'll come back in smells. It'll come back at whatever. But I think, and it'll come back when I'm talking to my brother about, Power Rangers or, I remember specifically being 12, maybe 13 and playing Mario Kart with my brothers and listening to Weird Al. You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff. But as far as any deeper than that, or as far as any, like earlier memories, I don't know if I have it.
So coming online to you is like post 15 years old when you start waking up, or what?
No, I guess coming online, in the way I used it was more like something that felt like the present. Something that felt like, okay, this is what's mattering now. Because the way I was before was so deeply insane and depressed and angry. I couldn't, it wasn't something I could bear. It wasn't something I could, and getting sober and getting into the world of spirituality, meditation, and altruism and the shit that I do was almost like, okay, now we're in something that actually matters. And it wasn't right away,
okay.
But I mean, when I can still remember things from before I got sober, Lord knows, but it's not, it feels like a different person.
I see. So it's like a new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And in the new chapter, you are more consciously aware.
Yeah, more consciously aware, more present. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Have you talked to people who've gotten sober?
I have. Yeah.
In depth. Yeah.
I have. Yeah. But I've just not heard it put exactly that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to piece it apart even right now.
I'd love that.
Yeah, but not because I'm necessarily feeling like I'm lacking anything. I'm certainly not like, I need to.
I thought you meant piecing it apart. I'm trying to like unpack it in this moment.
I'm trying to unpack what I meant or what I mean when I say that. I'm trying to explore what that means to me and look at the differences because, it is kind of it isn't necessarily something, even though I go to these certain meetings and explore certain topics or whatever, and even tell my story often, it's not the type of thing where, a lot of people have just straight up asking questions about my perspective on the things. You almost get into a routine where it's not disingenuous, but you get into a routine of stuff of points to talk about, and you get into a routine of, okay, and then I'll talk about this point and what brought me to this and why I got done, and et cetera, et cetera. But as far as like an actual, interview-ish type of thing, it doesn't really happen as often, or interview about the perspective or about my consciousness around it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier about access consciousness that I'm so into. And with that, when you were talking about being so depressed and everything, they have such an interesting idea around depression, or around really 98% of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions.
Now, who's they? The people who are into access consciousness. Okay.
Precisely.
Fantastic.
So the idea that access has about thoughts, feelings, and emotions, 98% of them don't even belong to us. Right?
Okay.
So a lot of access practices are really weird and magical and wonderful. And they can happen so quickly.
Right.
You can see change really quickly. So when you are feeling depressed or upset or even having a thought, you can say, truth, is this mine? And usually, strangely, you get a no. And then you can return to sender with consciousness.
Okay.
And so someone, my friend was like, oh yeah, I'm sending it back. It was like this aggressive
struggle.
Act. And it was like some sort of revenge that I don't want this anymore. I'm going to send it back to my mom or my brother or whatever. And this is more of like sending it back to the source. So yeah, maybe your mom, because you can also ask like, truth, whose is this?
Right.
But it's like, it goes back to the root. And it's sort of, when you return it with consciousness, it sort of lets it go.
So it's not attribution of blame.
Oh, no. It's like, wow, I've been carrying around this depression, anxiety, whatever. Truth, is it mine? And it's so weird. So you put the truth in front of it.
Right.
Because that sort of tricks you or the person with whom you're talking to tell the truth.
Right.
So sometimes when I ask it, people are like, huh, wait, what? No? And it's like, I just bumped into the microphone. Right. It's like, so I'll be like, truth, is it yours? And often we think it's ours. We're like really attached to our emotional content.
Absolutely.
And it's like, wait, no. And then you can return to sender with consciousness.
Okay. Now, when it's not mine, is obviously the first thought would be, okay, who the fuck is it? Right.
Oh, so you can ask, whose is this?
Right.
Who does this belong to? But it doesn't matter. So the idea is like, so much of this could be, yes, it could be something we got from childhood.
Right.
Yes, it could be something we got from the collective consciousness. Right. It could be something we got from, who knows?
Societal pressures or
all
things like that.
And like, what else is possible? And what if you didn't have to carry it around with you?
Right. The bottom line is what matters more is that it's not mine. It's not my business.
Return it to sender with consciousness attached.
Okay. Right.
It's amazing. It's so many of the access practices are so, like I said, they're weird. They're magical. It's like so easy. It's like 20 years of therapy and it's like, oh, I can just return it all to sender.
Right.
And that's not to undermine 20 years in therapy. I think that's amazing for somebody that chooses it. And I spent many a year in therapy.
Right.
And some of these practices just blow my brains out in all of the best ways. Because it's like, oh, I don't have to carry this.
Right.
It's not even mine.
Right.
What?
Right.
So, I mean, you can experiment. There's also, I don't want to be an infomercial, but there is a free app from Access Consciousness that's like, that reminds you all day. It says, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to?
Right.
Because you can notice like all day you're picking up on things.
Right.
And, you can have a really woo-woo perspective. Maybe you're picking it up from the guy in the subway.
Sure.
Maybe you're picking up from a past lifetime.
Right.
Maybe you're picking it up from a projected future lifetime.
Ooh.
Or you can get less woo-woo and just be like, no, I got that from my mom.
Right.
40 years ago, and I can return into sender with consciousness.
Without necessarily having to piece apart, here's why. Here's what her consciousness was around it. Here's why, here's why I picked up on it. Here's why it fit a puzzle piece for me. It's just none of that fucking matters.
Holy shit, it doesn't matter. Right. Like, and something amazing that brings up such an amazing, thank you. Like that.
I'm fucking incredible. I'm fucking
totally
amazing.
Incredible.
And I'm handsome. How do I do this? How do I do this?
Amazing.
Continue.
So it's like the why question from an access consciousness perspective is an accusation. So like when we ask ourselves, why did I do that?
Right.
It's like you're accusing yourself.
Yeah. There's no, it's almost like in certain spiritual practices, I used to write down, who I'm mad at, my fears around this situation, my part in the situation, and then what should I have done instead. And a few years ago, I started crossing out should and put what could. Because should is a fuck word.
It is a fuck word.
Should is a fuck word.
Yeah. Like there's so many, like I said, weird practices. So one of them that you just made me think of is about sort of relinquishing any judgments, conclusions, computations, expectations, rejections, separations, refined judgments. Those are the really sneaky ones, the like microaggressions, decisions, just sort of letting that all go.
Right.
And the why question doesn't let it go, right? And the shoulds.
Right.
I've heard like don't should on yourself.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like the other idea is like, what if there is no right or wrong or good or bad?
Right.
There's just action and creation.
Because ultimately, if there is actual blame, then that brings about punishment. Someone needs to fucking pay. Whether it's you or my mom or this or that or whatever, something needs to pay the piper. And when you realize, oh, you know what? When you practice going, this isn't mine, it's not about whose is it? It's just like, oh, but it isn't mine. It's almost like finding a wallet on the street, or this is a bad analogy, but finding something on the street and
this analogy.
Oh, this doesn't have any value to me. It's not mine. Oh, I'll just keep walking. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't belong to me.
If you find it and there is value, like say there's $20 in it,
right?
Then you can do another practice, which is weird and wonderful.
Stealing. I used to do that too.
It's just on the ground. That doesn't sound like stealing. So then you can ask, and a lot of the questions in Access, so who does it belong to? It's similar, right? Because we're not answering necessarily. Right. Like we might get an immediate, like my mom, my brother, my uncle. Right. We might not. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter. Return to sender with consciousness.
Sure.
Then another question, they love questions in Access, or I should say we do, because I'm super into Access. It's like
this is something Ladybug does.
Oh, Ladybug is all over Access.
Absolutely.
But again, I don't want to be an infomercial. I'm just excited.
Right.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. And I'm interested in getting into it.
Okay, cool. So, so if I did find $20 on the street, I would say, how does it get any better than this? Because there's so many questions that can sort of open up the possibility and open up a conscious awareness.
Or maybe there's something within that thought, that feeling, that whatever. Okay, there's a reason why my consciousness, subconscious, whatever, is glomming onto this. Is because this still serves me. 5%, 40% of whatever this thing is, this energy, still serves me. So let me piece apart why this is something, and let me see if I can maybe get that fulfillment or whatever in a different aspect, rather than taking this whole fucking bathwater, you know what I mean, and just eating this bad energy. Maybe there's something I can piece apart and get from something else and fulfill a need.
Interesting. So you're like, so I was being legit, like literal about the $20 on the street.
Okay.
And I'd be like, how's it get any better than this?
Sure.
Maybe then I'd find $40 or whatever.
Right,
or maybe then I'd, run into someone fabulous on the street like you, or who knows,
Flattery will get you nowhere, dear.
I'm
saying the analogy.
You're saying the analogy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the analogy in terms of the analogy for who does this belong to, or
no, I'm saying like if I say I'm dealing with a weird energy, and there's a weird energy and it's something, and it's shameful, or it's it makes me feel bad, whatever it is, anger, or a memory.
Yeah.
Rather than going, okay, who does this serve? Let me get rid of it. maybe there's something. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying
got it.
Maybe there's something in this memory that actually is serving my ego, that my ego needs, that my little kid needs, that my whatever, that my higher self, whatever the fuck. There's something in there. Say it's an aspect of a relationship with your mother. It may be wrapped up in a bunch of shit with mom in that certain instance, but maybe this mothering, I can piece apart. Okay, she meant well, and I can go, and that's why my ego's just fucking alien onto this thing. Maybe I can piece apart, okay, let me look at this mothering thing and get this maternal energy from somewhere else.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I feel that. Yeah. And there's also, in Access, there's so many questions. So they're just, again, they're like, what would it be like to relinquish the judgments, conclusions, computations, expectations, rejections, separations, refined judgments, decisions. I'm sure I'm missing one in there. Conclusions. And so with something like that, where there might really be something in there for you, the suggestion is a set of 4 questions.
Okay.
What is this? What can I do with it? Can I change it?
Right.
How can I change it? And again, even with those questions, it's not like I'm going to ask every question and then I'm going to write down the answers. And it's like getting out of computation and conclusion. Right. And it's just sort of putting the questions out, whether it's to you or the universe, or the multiverse, or consciousness, and sort of trusting that consciousness has your back and is going to reveal that to you.
And this is what I like about that aspect, is that so much of my experience, especially in meditation and affirmations, in the beginning and still sometimes now, is thinking like, I need to say the fucking prayer right. You know what I'm saying? I need to do this. Like, I need to be, I need to almost like exercise myself of this energy. That struggle, that's weird. It doesn't serve me.
They're like, what if there is no right or wrong? What if there is no good or bad? What if there's just action and creation? Right. And, I was just talking about this last night with someone, because I used to be for a hot minute, I was into like law of attraction kind of stuff. And this is different, because law of attraction, from my limited understanding, I studied it for a number of years, but I'm sure other people are much more well versed in it. From what I understand, it's like focusing on what you deem positive, right? And then, Abraham Hicks talks about getting into the vortex. Right. In Access, it's more like cultivating consciousness in general. Right. So it's not necessarily like I'm only going to focus on the quote unquote positive, because what if there is no good or bad or right or wrong, just action and creation? And what if what would it be like to be consciously aware of everything and then choose? And what if choice creates? Okay. That's badass, no?
Yeah, and but how does it differentiate? Go into a little bit about that.
So instead of just like, I was into Abraham Hicks. Do you know Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction?
I mostly get to that through Louise Hay.
Okay. Yeah. So they're like, focus on what you want, which, Access is about creating what you desire, but actually the original definition of want was to lack. So less about wanting and more about choosing, and choice creates, and less about, okay, I'm just going to focus on this positive thing. Right. So say you're dating someone who sucks and you're like, oh, I'm just going to focus on all their positive attributes. Let's try something else. Let's be consciously aware of who this person is.
It doesn't matter he has a tiny pee-pee.
Let's be consciously aware of the whole person. Right. And then choose.
Right. And also, I think because she talked about Louise Hay. She's talked about Abraham Hicks, but I feel she comes more from a place of what you're talking about, which is rather than, she also puts in there like, this isn't about blaming. You didn't bring this to yourself because you're a bad person. You didn't bring. There's some things that happen are what you needed, et cetera, et cetera. This is more about, in this present moment, what can I do to serve myself, to listen to myself, to honor myself, to blah blah blah, and is much softer about it. I don't know anything about fucking Abraham Hicks. All I know is it is much more the maternal energy, the softer opener energy. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. Yeah. I'm a little less familiar with Louise Hay, but I have some awareness. I just know, like, I was into, there was something about law of attraction that was attractive to me, because I liked the idea of creating what I desire. Sure. I've found a quicker, more efficient, effective route through access consciousness.
Right.
Because I am cultivating conscious awareness instead of just focusing on what I deem positive. Because what if I don't actually know what's positive or negative? And what if there is no right or wrong or good or bad, just action and creation? What else is possible? And so like you talked earlier, and I'm trying to run my rewind button to recall exactly what it was, but it was something about like this like aggressive energy. It might come back to me.
Struggle, worry.
So struggle, worry, like return that energy, return to sender, or just like what if you could just pull your energy out of that? Right. But also with access, which originally freaked me the fuck out, they're into like killing energy, because killing energy is sometimes required. What if you have cancer? You require killing energy. You just had surgery. You require some killing energy to get through that.
The way that I've been approached, I have a friend who's a shaman, and like a badass motherfucker. Like, you know, you can make dick jokes. I always say, like, I love him because you can make dick jokes right before we do a session. Amazing motherfucker, David Walsh in San Francisco. And one of the things we've done before is not necessarily even killing it, but allowing it to, like, thanking it for being in my life, for serving its purpose for how long it has, and then allowing it to leave. Yeah. And then filling that void, that whatever, with love and healing and and light and all that shit. So how does it differ from, or is killing this the same? Obviously, it's the same goal.
It's similar, yeah. Right. It's like but it's like it's not this like woo woo like I just have to be a nice amazing person all the time. Right. Like I get to be who I am. And sometimes that requires a killing energy. The idea of allowance is super hot for me right now too, which you mentioned, because allowance from an access perspective, there are 5 aspects of intimacy: allowance, trust, gratitude, vulnerability. Am I going to forget the 5th?
And is it intrapersonal? Is it just within yourself, or are you saying with both relationships?
So you practice this trust, allowance, gratitude, vulnerability, and allowance. Did I say that?
Yes.
I'm into allowance. I said it twice.
Right.
Vulnerability, allowance, trust, gratitude. I can't believe I'm not getting the 5th. Did I say vulnerability?
The Green Ranger.
The Green Ranger. Perfect. So allowance from this perspective is allowing everything and judging nothing. Right. But that doesn't mean we're choosing everything. Right. And I'm super into that. And allowance is different also than acceptance. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just like accepting everything as my reality. Fuck no, there's certain things in this reality that I don't necessarily accept, but I allow it. I even allow judgment. Right. Because what will that create? Maybe something awesome. Who knows? Right.
And also, I think there's something to that aspect. I take even in my show or on my whatever, I rag on a lot of motherfuckers, and I talk very, blatantly and flippantly about a lot of things. About you. I know, I'm amazing. But I also take the all the way up, perspective of humanity and our growth and our societies and our cultures and the way how fucking complicated and nuanced it is, to the point where I really do believe even horrible shit is like, well, this is obviously serving something that we needed right now. I take it almost like a microcosm or a macrocosm of humans. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it's the same shit. Whatever we served ourselves with this. So there isn't any need. Yes, you can have a vote. We all have a voice. We should all get out there. We can have space for judgment, space for mocking, space for whatever. Even, I guess, space for censorship, temporary, until we, take the cocksuckers down. But ultimately, there can't really be wrong, because I believe that the group conscious knows what's best for us. Knows what's best for us. Yeah,
and the more we cultivate consciousness independently, the more I think we're probably contributing to the greater collective.
Right, and in this certain group, they call it an informed group conscious.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, if the group decides we're all going to wear red hats, it's like, okay, but like if 5 of the people in that 10 are nervous or apprehensive of speaking up because they think they're the only ones who don't want to wear red hats. Like, no, that's not an informed group conscious. We need everybody to speak honestly about, so we can all decide, oh, it turns out, and then two of the people who were voting red hats, turns out they didn't even want it either. They just raised their hand because they liked the person who initiated the red hat idea. So now the whole idea just dies. You know what I mean? That's why censorship is real fucking fucked up, because we need an informed group conscious. What do we actually want here?
Yeah. And what if we could be in a state of allowance of ourselves? You know what I mean? What if we could really allow ourselves to fully show up? So if we're not into the red hat, even though we like the guy who developed the red hat idea, what if we could fully be ourselves and express that openly? Right. What else is possible?
Right. And even if that guy, even if red hat guy gets mad for a little bit, what if it turns out we didn't even like him anyway, and we're just telling ourselves that we like him?
Return to sender with consciousness attack.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much to this. I've had people I've let out of my life by being my honest self, and realized, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, oh, thank God that motherfucker's gone.
I mean, I get it. I often tell people I'm a steel trap. Like, once you know me, the only way out is death.
I didn't make a dirty joke. Isn't that amazing? She said steel trap, and I said nothing about her vagina. I get an award.
But no, it makes sense to perhaps break up with people in your life if they're not
contributing or at least being open enough for you to contribute who you actually are, for you to show up as you actually are.
Yeah. And what if we could do that regardless, right? Like, what if we could fully show up as ourselves regardless of who's listening or not?
Yeah.
Like, what else would be possible then? I think I remember the fifth aspect of intimacy.
Okay, so we've got allowance.
Should we have a test?
Should we have a test? Yes, okay. We've got allowance.
Exactly. That one was the one I really liked.
Gratitude.
I said it like 4 times for the 5. Gratitude, yep.
Okay, we've got openness.
Honor.
Oh, you're testing me? I was trying to list it out for you.
Go.
I'm not doing it. I don't remember. I'm listening to you.
You got it. I didn't know which person was taking a test.
All right.
Okay, so
good sex, allowance. No. What was it? Allowance.
Yep.
Gratitude.
Yep. We're practicing this
honor?
on ourselves and each other. It does. Honor.
Okay. And there's 2 more. But you just remembered the fifth one
I
just now.
I just finally remembered.
Okay.
So vulnerability. I did say that one earlier.
You did say that. I remember that.
We're into vulnerability. Vulnerability is strength, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and trust.
But I think you did say that.
Did I? Okay.
Maybe.
Well,
but then you had doubled up on allowance.
Maybe I doubled up on allowance. So trust, not in the way of like, I'm going to trust that everything's going to be great no matter what. It's more like, I'm going to trust this person. I'm going to trust myself to show up as who I truly am.
Right.
And I'm going to trust myself to recognize that to practice conscious awareness, to be aware. What do you know?
How does that differ from honor?
Honor is more, so trust is like, I'm going to trust this person, me or another, to show up as who they truly are.
Right.
Honor is, I'm going to honor this person. I'm going to, honor their brilliance.
Okay. So hoping that they're showing up as themselves. So when they are truthful, when they open up as themselves and show up as themselves, you can hold space for that.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
When was the most that you can think back? What comes to mind when it's been a difficult, and you don't have to name the person, or maybe it's within yourself, that someone has showed up truthfully as themselves, and you're like, this one's a hard one to honor.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that happens, but I mean, I guess I'm wondering, like, how many of us actually do show up truthfully as ourselves? But yeah, okay. Someone showing up truthfully as themselves, and I'm doing my best to practice honor, even when it's challenging. Right. Sure, that's happened. I have some people populating my brain now.
Right. I think one of the ways it might manifest is someone you realize you realize it's hard to honor this truth about them, because it means that it conflicts. They actually want something that isn't in line, and not in a judgy way, but it's just like, oh, this doesn't. So it's like it's hard to sometimes piece apart. Okay, I can honor this without also acquiescing and
exactly.
going like,
you can honor it without choosing it.
Right.
It's so much of access consciousness, and what I'm into these days is about choice. And what if choice creates? What else would be possible?
Right.
It's just really, choice creates, those two words together.
What?
They're amazing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What if everything's a choice?
The highest pitched voice I've ever heard in my life.
I'm sorry, everybody. And I just crashed into the microphone again. What if everything's a choice and choice creates? I mean, just that you could spend a lifetime.
Well, because there's an incredible amount of power in that, and power in the good way, because you're no longer as a victim.
Power, not power over, right? Just potency, like a level of like, I got this.
Right.
And yeah, that just, I'm getting chills. It's
but
amazing.
Without adding the other thing that we were just talking about, which is then, like when I was coming apart, not coming apart, when I realized like, okay, I'm having nerve compression issues in my arm, and now this one as well. Okay. Yeah, a little bit, very light.
Who does that belong to?
Yeah.
Is it yours? Truth, is it yours?
What, the nerve compression?
Yep. Truth, is the nerve compression yours?
Well, how do we answer it? What do you mean?
Truth, is the nerve compression yours? What are you getting?
Well, yes would never be an answer to that, wouldn't it?
So then return to sender with consciousness, baby.
Right, but isn't that a weird trick question, though? Because now I want to pick this apart a little bit.
So it's like thoughts, feelings, emotions, ailments, things that show up in our bodies. What if they're not ours? And what if we can return them to sender with consciousness? What else
this
is
answers
possible?
This answers
okay,
that.
Give it to me.
Because here's
what
the
else?
thing. Because I've gotten into all this, awareness and attraction shit.
Yes.
When there was this, and okay, now I have a problem. There was anger at God. There was anger at the situation. There was anger all over the fucking place. Anger at the fact that I couldn't perform at a place for the last year and a half because I had to fit it in somewhere. Everybody cover your ears. Liberals are the devil. Okay, there. It's gone. Don't worry. Everybody just make believe it. But there was anger, but then there was also like anger at myself. Because with the attraction shit, it was like, well, how the fuck? I didn't actually goddamn fucking want this. There's no fucking piece of me that would want to hold me back in this way.
So do you want to hear a view on anger?
It's a view on it, sure. Go ahead.
No.
Really? Let me
it's
first
so
get.
compelling.
No, it's good. Hang on to it.
Okay.
But I first
want
to.
Forget.
Sure, I will. But let me loop it in with that idea.
Loop it in.
This is why attraction didn't work for me in this aspect, because then it adds some sort of guilt, shame to me as a person who attracted this thing that holds me back as a performer, as a human being.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Right.
So yeah, not great that you're a bad person for attracting these horrible things.
But it allows me to piece apart this idea.
Yes.
Not that these attraction guys and dolls are super rigid. Some of them fucking are. But I don't know a lot of those people. And Louise Hay is not one of those people, or wasn't one of those people. But I just have needed to realize that my view of all this needs to get broader, because I need to find what parts of this work for me and what parts of it fucking don't.
Okay.
Or my perceptions on those things that have become locked in to attraction, what parts of those don't. So
great. So with anger, I think this is appropriate to bring this in now.
Sure.
The idea is usually that there's a lie attached.
Okay. In what ways?
I don't know.
Give me an example.
So initially when I heard this, should I tell this ridiculous story? Initially when I heard it, I was dating someone and then he had to leave. We were out, we were having a drink with a friend, and then he had to leave at 2 a.m. and I got really angry and I was like, there's a lie attached. He must be cheating on me. Like, I spiraled out of control. Then I learned, oh no, it might not be a lie attached. It could be a lie I'm telling myself.
Yeah, more often than
not. It could be, it's not just one version of lie.
Right.
So there's some sort of lie happening typically when anger shows up.
Right.
Maybe it's a lie you're telling yourself. Maybe it's a lie that this ailment is yours. Maybe it's just a matter of returning to sender with consciousness. Right. Maybe it's the lie that you should have done something differently, and had you would have created something better. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's, it could be, maybe it's the shame. Maybe the shame's a lie. Like,
I've had to dig into that a lot. I do get the conscious idea. I do get the idea like in my subconscious, I can realize there are things that I have held on to that I have needed we all have that shit we hang on to, subconsciously or otherwise, that no longer serve us, but have served us for X amount of years or whatever. And there's parts of shame and fear and anxiety or whatever that I've been allowing my claws to let go of, but it doesn't necessarily Sara Jane happen as quickly as my perception would like it to motherfucking be.
And that's the weird thing with these practices that I've noticed. Right. They can happen in a minute, less, in a few seconds. Returning to sender, like you might notice when you do it, you feel lighter. What? Like, what? It's not like you understand necessarily what the fuck. Right. Like, you don't necessarily understand the who, the why, the what. Right. It's just like, oh, truth isn't mine. No, return to sender. I'm lighter. Okay. I'm going back into some old territory, right? Some anxiety or some anger. Let me just pull my energy out. Oh, I'm lighter. Okay, cool.
Does that require a foundational aspect of power over energy first? Here's why I ask that. Because sometimes there's been things in my life, and it's gotten easier, it's getting lighter, it's gotten much better. But around some of the spiritual tools that I have used, sometimes motherfuckers get in this vibe of like it's mental voodoo. And my brain, I'm not saying I'm like, I'm very smart, but it's also very active. You know what I mean? And so it's already 5 steps ahead of the mental voodoo that I want to play on myself, knowing like, whatever, that's just something you're trying to tell yourself. So it's based on the fundamental belief, subconscious belief, that I don't have power over my own thinking or feeling or energy. And so is there something foundational, not 20 years of attraction like you were talking about, but is there something other foundational work that could potentially be done to help that process?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I have been meditating for 20 years. I did call myself a Buddhist for a long time. Or, my Buddhist teachers would say, don't be a Buddhist, be a Buddha. And I'm a Jew-boo. Like, I started a Jew and then became a Boo. And then now I probably...
So you have a fat statue with a yarmulke on. Fantastic.
Exactly. And now I'm more into access. So yes, I still like the practice of a daily meditation, and I'm sure that's contributed to who I am and what I'm bringing now. And with access practices, it's very accessible. So, and it can happen. I promise you, because I watch it. I watch it in clients. I watch it in friends. It can happen within a moment. So you've already cultivated consciousness. You've already cultivated awareness. You've already practiced different things. So you're a million steps ahead anyway. I don't know. Can you build on that foundation? Hell yes.
Yeah.
But is it required for these practices? It's not.
Okay.
And that's something so I'm really into, I was telling you earlier, these symphony sessions. They're developed by Dr. Dane here. He's one of the co-creators of Access Consciousness. He developed this practice called Symphony of Possibilities. I was recently trained in it. I've now done well over 100 sessions. I have seen the most profound change in people and in myself from a sesh. So it's lasting. Okay. So it doesn't have to, it's not like, again, nothing against 20 years of meditation or 10, a decade in therapy or whatever you choose. Right. It's all amazing. Go get it.
Right.
But it's, other quote unquote therapeutic models that I've practiced, that I've been the practitioner or that I've been the participant have not matched this. It's not the same as like therapy where you got to go every week for however many years to change. Right. It's like you can change it in one sesh. You can change it in one convo.
Similar to maybe a potential aspect, and again, not attributing any shame, any guilt, or whatever. And sometimes it's very necessary, but certain types of therapy is me looking at myself like this constantly. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to piece this apart. I'm going to look back. Yeah. I'm going to look back. 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 And sometimes that's helpful, and sometimes it's fucking not.
And they're like,
it's masturbation.
They're like, darling, just what about and you can do it with your hands if you want to be right. Who does it belong to?
Right.
Return to sender with consciousness. if you want to get a little weird, like I like to pull your energy out.
Right.
You know, I mean, in a symphony session, I am like doing weird hand movements. It's as weird as, you know, it
No,
gets
I have a friend who, I have a Reiki practitioner. She's into that shit.
It's a little different from Reiki, but so like I'm doing the hand stuff, right? And I'm like pulling the energy out. And then it's like, okay, what else is possible?
Right.
And but you don't have to have a session with me or anyone else. You can do it yourself.
Right.
Like anytime you sense yourself going into any material that is not a contribution,
right.
you can pull your energy out. And they're sort of like, one of their measures is like, if it's heavy, it's a lie or it's not useful. If it's light, it's the truth, and, you know, run with it. So anytime you sense a heaviness, just like pulling your energy out. What else is possible? How does it get any better?
Right.
What energy, space, consciousness, choice, magic, mysteries, miracles, and possibilities can you be?
See, there's a lot of lists going on in this
Ladybug. Maybe my OCD. Okay, we're circling back to the OCD. Right?
Wait a second. A Jew is obsessive compulsive? Never heard of it in my life.
So neurotic. But it does speak to that part of me, because it's like I can ask all these weird questions. I can ask the same question over and over. I can pull my energy. I could spend a lifetime asking, what is this? What can I do with this? Can I change this? How can I change this? I can obsessively have an alarm set that asks me to return to sender with consciousness. Sure. And that shit works.
Right.
Like, it works.
Right. How long have you been doing it? Into
not
Access?
Not that long. 2019.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, given all the practices I've practiced, I haven't practiced this that long.
Sure.
And yet I've seen more change through Access Consciousness than any of the other practices.
So there's
I've
been
done.
Passion then. That's why you're partially excited about this.
I am so excited about it because I have witnessed my own change from really being like, talk about OCD. I was obsessively, compulsively involved in my own trauma drama.
Right.
Like, it was maybe a good time for other people to hang out with me and hear about whatever was going on in my life. Like, we would have an interesting convo. No, you would hear about some crazy thing I was involved in. It might like turn you on, but it was so trauma drama.
Right.
And Access.
Wait. Okay,
Access
finish
has enabled me to choose something different.
Right. To not have to live in it.
I spent so much time. Trauma. You mentioned depression. Like, I was just always like, I would just wake up and be like, oh, you know, like, I mean, I always had a level of excitement for certain things and I would be able to muster it. But there was some like underlying, like, ugh.
Something holding you back, something graying it, something dulling it,
and always just honestly, there was like this thing. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm gonna say it. Like, there was a thing of like, well, I always have a way out. Like, I could kill myself. Mm-hmm. Like, and I had a really amazing person, Joe Trusso, who used to ask, "What part of you gets to die?" Right. And that was a really cool question to ask. But it was like this underlying like. This like there's another word besides underlying that is in my awareness, but I can't exactly think of it. But maybe you're gonna think of it because we seem to be vibing off of each other. I don't know, but there was this like dull ache of like existence,
always there.
And when I even though I was doing interesting and amazing things for a long time, when I got into Access, all of that turned around. I promise. And I just watch other people. Like, am I getting too promotional?
No,
I just
you're not.
Watch people go through this, and it's fucking amazing.
How has that manifested in the way you wake up now?
I wake up so excited.
Okay.
I'm like, oh my goodness, I get to have another day on this planet. What am I going to go create?
Right.
Like, that's how I am. I was not always like that. Right. And maybe that's really annoying to hear about.
No, not necessarily. A couple of things. I'm attuned to I'm attuned to manipulation and bullshit and sales techniques and whatever.
Yeah, and maybe
I don't necessarily get that from
Okay.
But I'm not saying I get that, because I don't. What I like is that there is, even regardless of promotional or whatever, the fact that you've already experienced all these other ways, and you're not necessarily knocking those other ways, but your experience. There's been other motherfuckers I've talked to, and God bless them, and their voice matters, and I had them whatever, who've been doing it not very conscious for whatever, and knowing that there's more of a, I don't want to say OG because you're not old, but someone who's been doing it for a longer time makes me feel like, oh, okay, all right, this motherfucker like knows.
And it's not like I never get grumpy, right? I do, but when I remember, I say, "Truth, who does this belong to? Oh, right. Is it mine? No, return to sender."
Do I need to eat, masturbate?
Exactly. Can I pull my energy out? What else is possible? How does it get any better than this? Yes, like what instead of like, oh, what is this? Why is this happening? Right. What? Oh, did this come from my family of origin? Should I reevaluate this? Right. It's like, no. What else is truly possible? Right. Like, what would be a contribution? Will this create my future or decay it? And if I get it, this will decay it. I don't. It just doesn't receive my attention. I don't need to participate. Right. Exactly. Right. But it's not. But so that might sound similar to law of attraction, because it's like, oh, I'm not like blocking it out. I'm just not choosing to put my attention there. I'm choosing to pull my energy to what's going to create greater. Right. But I'm not creating like a narrow view. So I'm creating consciousness. I'm cultivating conscious awareness.
Here's another way to put it. In that spiritual program I'm a part of, instead of being afraid of alcohol or drugs or fighting alcohol or drugs or whatever, is as we've been placed in a position of neutrality. Where it's just like, oh, this is a thing. I can look at it unemotionally, say it's depression or anger or suicidal or whatever. I don't have to be like, focus on it obsessively and, fucking jerk it off. I don't have to get away, in the name of Jesus. Like, I don't have to do any of that stuff. It's just like, oh, there it is. I'm going to choose not to be involved in it. I'm going to focus on something that's going to make me feel good.
That. Right. Like neutrality. Wherever we're resisting or reacting or aligning and agreeing, right. we become the effect of that thing. Right. Like, so when we can just be like, chill. Okay. Right. Pull my energy out. Oh, truth. Is this mine? Is this nerve? No. Return to sender. Right. Like, no, like, oh, I've done this wrong or bad. And I'm, none of that. Like, right. What else is truly possible? Right. And letting go of judgments, conclusions, computations, expectations, rejections, separations. If
I threw toothpicks on the floor, would you be able to count them right away?
You mean because of my? Probably, maybe. I don't know. I've got some weird quirks.
Gotta get to Walmart. There's an old movie reference, Rain Man. Anyway,
I got it. Yeah, I can relate. I've definitely the OCD I've been like legit, and then others have told me autism. I don't know. There are a lot of labels.
Yeah, I don't know if I get
whatever.
I knew somebody with Asperger's once.
I know someone with Asperger's. Yeah.
I don't know if I didn't know him very well. I did think he was a cunt, but outside of that, I don't know. I don't know if this
was it the Asperger's.
Was he just a cunt? Yeah, I don't know. Possibly the latter. So you have many aspects of this production stuff. You work on Ladybug, blah blah blah.
I do.
The other aspect I would like to talk about is one of the many is this clit situation. So
yes, that goes back. We're just coming full circle because that goes back to coming full circle. That goes back to the desire, So I do. When I talked about, you were asking when I moved from California to New York City and I was chasing the guy. You're like, well, is this part of your spiritual practice? Yes. Was it part of a Buddhist practice? Maybe not, because Buddhism, is a little bit about releasing desire. But other practices that I've indulged in are all about desire. Right. So
apparently Satanism is like nothing but desire.
Okay. All right. So I've been trained. I graduated from the School of Womanly Arts. I graduated from orgasmic meditation. I didn't do the full orgasmic meditation coaching
Those
program.
Motherfuckers are a little goddamn creepy.
So there's a lot going on with them. If you look them up, you'll find some crazy stuff. But I loosely base this practice called Caress on an orgasmic meditation model. on the School of Womanly Arts. Regina Thomas-Schauer, bow to her. She said, plan an erotic experience, have an erotic experience, and then digest an erotic experience. So we do that together in an hour. And then I also follow the energy through Access Consciousness. So it's a hour-long Zoom practice with people with a clitoris. And each person has a clitoris, and in the practice, and it's a stroking sesh
with other women on a Zoom.
Exactly. I developed this during COVID, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. Are you catching the energy of it? You are, right?
Are you saying my dick is hard? No, it's not hard.
Yeah, I mean,
but
you're
it's
catching
interesting.
energy, right?
Okay,
No?
a couple of things. I need a piece of.
Should I give you the energy of it?
Are you going to show it to me? There's aspects of this, that are very interesting.
Okay.
But not necessarily in a way I want to poke holes in, but only because
Do
I
your
like,
thing.
because the people that I've known who are into that shit, if they're women, they're self-serving douchebags, and the dudes are, I get to touch your pussy.
You heard me. It's loosely
and that's
based.
weak. Okay,
some
good.
of the things,
so I like
right?
this. This is a little better.
Some of the I can't even believe that I'm talking about orgasmic meditation because
You're on conservatish, motherfucker. Of course you are.
They're in trouble, right? Okay, so pull my energy out of that. But anyway, So
no, you don't have to get negative, but I like hearing about the positives of this.
Some of the things that they were teaching about are amazing.
Okay.
They taught a partnered meditation practice where one person stroked the other person's clitoris for 15 minutes.
Right.
13 minutes of an upstroke, 2 minutes of a downstroke.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird energy within the organization. Mm-hmm. I get it. Yeah. But some of the things that came from that orientation are really beautiful and amazing. So I took the things that I like. I combined
left the things that didn't work.
Exactly.
For you.
I combined it with some teachings from the School of Womanly Arts. Regina Thomas-Schauer, she's a badass woman. And I love to follow the energy to which I best credit Access Consciousness. So I sort of practice these different modalities and stroke my clitoris with other women on a Zoom. How's it get any better than that?
I can think of some ways, or at least one big one, one big uncut way. Yeah. But here's the thing I like about this versus the other ones. Number one, it doesn't involve dudes. Let me explain why that's a good thing. Because I feel like my ground experience, as not just being a dude, but also speaking with and exploring sex and exploring energies, whatever, we are different. It's not that mental or energetic doesn't play in. It plays in a lot, but we have different ones. And your space, the female space, when you're with other women, you can be honest in ways that you can't when men are involved, and men can be honest in ways that we can't when you're here.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Unless we are by ourselves in a circular or, threesome, whatever. But there's an honesty, there's a vulnerability, there's a whatever that sometimes women will make believe exists because they want to subconsciously muscle a dude into submission, energetic submission, because they want to feel safe, right? And there's some guys who tuck their dick that way in order to see and touch and be a part of, right? So it's not just I get to be naked with a girl or I get to touch pussy. It's also I get to the acceptance and the connection and the whatever it is that comes from, okay, now I have this moniker of being a guy who does this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a dishonesty there that I feel is better when we're not involved. When we have our own, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
So I like that. And I respect that women are going to have their own thing within each other. You guys on a Zoom doing that sounds, go for it.
It's beautiful. And for me, it taught me, wow, on a whole other level, it's not something I hadn't sort of explored previously, right. But it taught me on a whole other level, level to be my own lover. Okay. What if I could have, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up access consciousness again, but like they talk about rather than a relationship, which is the distance between 2 points,
sure,
a creationship. What if I could have a creationship with myself? What would it take to have a creationship with everyone in my life?
Right.
So when I start with myself and I practice those 5 aspects of intimacy with me,
right.
Then I practice with my sisters on a Zoom and our clits.
Right.
Then I can like bring that to the other aspects of my life.
Right.
I know that I've got myself. Mm-hmm. And so when I can trust myself in that way, and I've cultivated that trust with me and my body,
right.
then I can sort of like trust that consciousness also has my back.
Right.
Whereas in the past, I kind of was always like, consciousness doesn't have my, I don't know if I was using those words, but you talked about maybe having anger with God or something. I think there were points in the past where I was like, this is all bullshit. And I can get out of here if I want, and it's like, this practice is just like, I got you, girl. Right. I'm talking to myself and my sisters. Yeah. And then I bring that.
And I've done that in many different ways, not in the world of masturbation at the same time. So it's interesting. I think probably women have a readiness to do that, not just because of, their, I'm not going to say social messaging, because I feel like too many people use that shit as a catch-all, but because of the social messaging of what's appropriate for you to play with and catch on to and accept, right? Especially when other women all are in a group. But so guys would never be doing what you guys are doing, and that's
unless you're at a frat house, right?
No, I mean, that's called a limp biscuit, and you don't know. That's no.
I mean, dudes do those kinds of like
no,
a circle
we fucking
jerk,
do
right?
not. No, a circle jerk is not a real thing.
I mean, it's not exactly. No, I've heard that legit. Legit exists.
No, I'm sorry, it does not. Unless the men
anyone
are
out there that
homosexual. But and rock on. But I'm just saying. So the aspects of men doing it wouldn't look like the way you're doing it, right? But it's similar, especially in the ways that I've, Dave Walsh has worked with me, and I've worked on my, I hate, again, it still sometimes brings up negative connotations of old hippies who are fucking full of shit, but inner child work is an important thing. Holding space, be like, you're good. I love you. You're getting healthier. Things are all right. It's all right. You're allowed to, I mean, I've even had times where, I talked about this on a past show where, he asked me to hold space for myself and start, an energy opening up, and then write down what my negative messaging would want to say to me, what it's trying to actually say to me. And it was vitriolic, fucking otherworldly shit about hatred for my little kid, right? Aww. I know. But I'm just saying I needed to express that, because obviously something in me needed to express that. And unless I allowed a little bit of space, not to let my little kid be hurt, but to hear it out, then I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So there's work that needed to be done there, and probably still some, definitely. But as far as folding in that masturbation thing, it seems, I don't know, it's interesting that there would be, so here's an aspect of what I'm trying to figure out. What does fantasy look like in that?
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, truly, I mean, we are practicing allowance. So anything goes. Mm-hmm. Like, so if a woman is fantasizing during caress, is that cool? Of course. Do whatever you like. It's kind of more like almost like a meditation. So I'm leading these women through the practice. So I'm like, okay, what do you notice? Finger to flesh, your breath, your,
nipples.
Are you relaxed? It's just, I had yes, of
no,
course.
I'm not, I wasn't being flippant. I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Nipples.
Sensations.
I had a yoga teacher. I trained in India as a yoga teacher, and one of my teachers, Ted Grand, used to say, like, you could spend a year practicing just relaxing your jaw. Like you could have a year-long practice just doing that.
Yeah.
Like set your alarm on your phone to tell you to relax your jaw.
Right.
What does that create?
Right.
So it's like, okay, is your jaw relaxed? Just noticing the sensations of the body.
Right.
In Access, they also sort of talk about the body with that we can commune with it.
Absolutely.
We can ask, body, what do you desire? What do you, you know, when you go to the fridge, rather than just sort of like haphazardly grabbing something, like, what do you truly desire?
Right.
And so we're sort of putting all of that into action in just a really short hour-long practice. It's not for everyone. It's obviously not for everyone. It's for people with the clitoris, but it's not for every woman either, or everyone that identifies, you know, that has
It's okay. You're in a safe place, my dear.
Thank you. Okay.
Transphobic. Relax.
Yeah. Okay.
You're all right.
So, you know, I've had people tell. I just spit. Okay. I've had people tell me like, I'm falling apart. It's like we're talking about
being
caress.
in my presence is a difficult thing.
Yes, it's true. It must be. I've had people say like, I'm never going to come to this caress class. I might do other things that you're offering. I'm not going to choose that, but just knowing that you're doing that in the world, like, contributes. So that's awesome. It's not every, you know, the women that choose it, pretty freaking badass.
Right.
Like, these are women that are like looking to create something different in their lives, in themselves, in their relationships, their creationships, in
Is
sisterhood.
there also some body positivity that happens there?
Sure.
Okay.
We are loosely following the orgasmic meditation model, and that also includes a frame. So you look at your vulva and you give yourself a frame. Like, I notice one labia is a little longer than the other or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
I don't mind that at all. By the way, women, there's sometimes I've been with girls.
Wrong with that.
I've been with girls who are like, you know, one girl I was with her for a while. I would kind of tease her by saying that her pussy was meaty, but like it wasn't a negative thing.
Probably
you know
gorgeous.
what I mean? I fucking loved that. I was just like, you know, and I like little ones too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like as far as body self-consciousness, don't trip, girls. It's all good.
It's all good, and so yeah, it is. I mean, I'm going to mention again because my OCD, like letting go of all the judgments, conclusions, computation. When you're taking a look, so, you know, hand mirror, you take a look,
right,
and you give yourself a frame, and yeah, it's not something we're probably used to doing as women,
right.
And yeah, we're kind of letting go of all those quote unquote shameful
Right.
aspects of being a woman, or being anyone walking the planet, right? And like, oh, is this mine? Probably not. Like, because most vulvas are very beautiful. Right. That's another thing Regina Thomashire talks about in School of Womanly Arts, like how there's so many different names, and a lot of people call this region of vagina, and that's not even legit accurate. Like, the vagina is the canal, and then the vulva is what you see, and then the clitoris, it's a point, and a little to the left is the most stimulating, but it's this whole apparatus. It's not just that little point. So there's like so many things that we, even as women, that we just don't know about.
Is it clitoral only? Or like also,
this particular
so no
practice,
G-spot. No,
exactly.
Interesting.
This particular practice is similar to orgasmic meditation. I was like, I'm not going to get too controversial, and so I bring up.
So here's a clarifying question.
Which is just clitoral.
Is it so? There's no, because it has to be guided. Because if one of you is not coming. And the rest of you are like waiting for the other one to come. You ever been on a Skype session with a girl and just be like, I've been done minutes ago.
Yes, it's clitoral, and then so the typical positioning is thumb on introitus or opening, and then you choose a stroking finger for clit, and it is an upstroke, although you can choose whatever's most stimulating.
But there's no pressure for a goal.
There's no pressure for a goal. So climax, in one reality is defined as, or orgasm, right, is often defined as climax.
Sure.
And it doesn't have to show up that way. I mean, if you've been around a turned on woman, there's an orgasmic energy that exists well before she may or may not climax.
Right.
So it's like tapping into that.
Right.
And yeah, climax happens or not, and it's all cool. Right. And regardless, it's like, I got my back. Like and to do that, something about like doing it with other women.
Right.
Doing it with myself. Having a set practice has really created something different for me in my life with myself.
Do you feel more secure
and with others
when you're with someone?
I do. Right. And I think I was probably always relatively secure.
Sure.
But I certainly that has become more enhanced.
Right.
And it's just like I again, like back to the whole choosing, like I get to choose from a more glorious place.
Right.
My cup is already filled up.
Right.
And then I'm choosing from there.
Right.
Rather than choosing from some level of desperation or anxiety, judgment,
right.
Whatever.
Although sometimes the quickie is a lot of fun.
That could be a good time.
A midday jerk. I do like a midday jerk at least 3 or 4 times a week. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
High
I was
five.
just like, I've got some
or
time.
Low five, actually.
I've got some time. Okay. Has it colored your fantasies going forward?
Has caress colored my fantasies?
Or colored or changed? Here's what I mean. Does it cheapen it next time or maybe even enhance it? Does it change it or adjust next time you look at porn or you whatever? Is it different from there? Is it more positive? Is it more...
I think everything... I mean, I don't want to sound too... I'm not trying to like...
Be all woo-woo with it.
And I'm not trying to like just be like, oh, you got to do correct. It's not probably for everyone, mm-hmm. right? But... I think it's probably enhanced every aspect of my life.
Okay.
Because it's not as if I didn't touch myself before I created caress. Right. I did.
Right.
But exactly. Right. But something about creating this very
different space,
beautiful container with other badass women.
Right.
We do it very regularly. Like we have a schedule.
Right.
We know we're going to take an hour. Sometimes we're taking an hour on a Tuesday. Like who does that? Right. We do. Like you do.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Mine isn't an hour usually.
Okay. Yeah. Cause we go through the whole thing.
I got shit to do.
Yeah. Got places to go. But yeah, so we go through a whole, it's similar to like, I mean, it's kind of similar. I was trained in a model of yoga where you do the exact asanas or poses every time.
Right.
So it's like 32 of the same poses, right? So it's like the same basic structure, not really, but same basic like idea
frame,
each time.
Outline.
Yeah, container. And then anything is possible within that.
Is it hard to focus on yourself while you're running these things?
No.
Okay.
It's just like, truthfully, it's just like, whenever someone says truthfully, you kind of wonder, right? Like, why do they have to say truthfully?
Right,
are they not speaking truthfully?
Right. Show me on your vagina where it says.
But it's like, it's nothing about it is it's always a good time. Like, I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid to like stroke my clit with a bunch of badass women. How does it get any better than that?
I'll be there this Tuesday.
And I think it's like, and we're cultivating consciousness simultaneously, and we've got our own backs, and we're therefore less like, we're creating something with ourselves, which can help cultivate that with others.
Right. I'd like to bring up an aspect that isn't necessarily something that you do, but I know there's going to be I know that there are going to be women who are watching this, and I want to put this out there. So, and I don't necessarily even know the answer to this, but there is no open space, physically or mentally, culturally, societally, whatever. And not that I'm saying it should look exactly like yours, because I do not think it should. But we don't ever talk about the male side of that. Meaning women, it's culturally acceptable to, I sometimes say it flippantly. There was a Facebook group I saw years and years ago at the beginning of Facebook, and it was like a saying type of group. It was basically, it said like, it said, I don't have, these aren't stretch marks. I'm a tiger who's earned her stripes. And I'm all about self-acceptance. Lord knows. But you would never see a guys group that said it's not the size of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean. Right? And I'm not saying there should be. Yeah. But I'm saying it is culturally acceptable and pushed for, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be at all, because we've come a long fucking way for us as a society, or as far as the West anyway, to open up to the trials and tribulations interpersonally, intrapersonally, whatever, with women. But as far as boys, it is culturally acceptable to talk about how quick we are, how small we are. It's culturally acceptable to say that we can't fuck, and yet it's not culturally acceptable to say y'all can't. It's not culturally acceptable, and I don't mean I'm saying it doesn't even come into consciousness with normally quite aware, spiritual fucking women. There's a cultural acceptability almost where it's just like, I'm all about self-love, 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 and his dick was small, or he couldn't fuck, or it was all just pumping, or it was all that. And I'm not saying that those shouldn't be critiqued necessarily, or that you should accept things. Remember, we were talking about acceptance. Allow things into your life that you should just stay with a guy if he's bad in bed. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying ways to accept that, ways to fix that. There's no way, there's no translation, there's no conduit, there's no bridge in between knowing where this guy if it's an immutable thing, like a guy has a tiny dick, there's ways around that. And there are guys who can use their dick or their tongue or their fingers or whatever to make fulfillment and create and cultivate masculinity in other ways or whatever. But I'm saying there's no bridge in between guys who don't have sexual awareness of themselves and of women to the other side. It's all mocking, and it's all not even just mocking. It's a blindness to what we go through. It's a blindness to the pressure. There's so often in feminist, and ease everywhere, not just, feminist whatever, but everywhere it's just like, look at the magazine covers and all skinny women. Bitch, like, yeah, but look at any porn. Okay, every guy has a giant dick and can fuck for 14 hours and keep it hard and, and knows all the... I mean, I think a lot of them are... I've talked about this on a show a few days ago on the Red Flag Lovecast. It's the second episode's coming soon, everybody, with Mike Harlow and Johnny Call. But, a lot of... in my opinion, a lot of dudes on porns are fucking boring. But there's something that... There's no way for us to even talk about culturally how to help dudes. It's just there's guys who can and there's guys who can't. So I'm just bringing that to the awareness of the women who are watching this, and I'm all for rah get into this and take care of yourself and allow and connect, but understand that being a dude, there is no fucking mechanism for dudes, and it shouldn't be the same way as yours. I don't think a bunch of dudes on the Zoom should be jerking off, but I'm saying just be aware of the fact of that missing piece.
I think that's very true. I think it's not only true for, it's not just about sex, right? It's about, sexuality or masturbation or whatever. It's in a lot of areas. Absolutely. That men are sort of not treated with the same, what is it? Respect? I don't know. Or even awareness. Like, it's like, we're just, I think that's true. Yeah. I would love there to be programs. I know of a few programs for men, nothing exactly like Caress. Again, maybe it's not appropriate for that to happen.
Only because I think we have different needs, Yeah. And to try to fit, that's why, I'll say it this way. When, as an example, sometimes the hardcore fourth wave feminists are like, we want to be a part of your club. There's not enough women here in this club. It's like, okay. And the guys acquiesce and the women come in. And then they're like, we don't like this club. We want to change everything about this club. It's like, well, you asked to be in this. You know what I mean? Like, we have different likes, different desires, different energies, different interests. And it's okay for us to have that. So I'm not saying that the same language should be used.
Sure.
But some sort of something about at least the awareness of this is an aspect or many different aspects of manhood that are lacking, rather than just where have all the cowboys gone? Wonder why they've gone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Alison Armstrong is a really amazing teacher who is just such an advocate for men. And she really helps men and women recognize how valuable men are and how we don't necessarily treat them with the same degree of, again, I'm at a loss for words.
Respect could be it, understanding, or at least as far as the respect thing, the honor. Yeah. That you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. And what else is possible there? And honestly, I mean, again, so if you just to be so clear, like a few things. If you go to an access consciousness training or session, you're not going to be stroking your clitoris or anything, right? So I have just sort of incorporated...
Welcome, everybody take off your panties.
I've just incorporated some things I've learned in access consciousness in this practice that I'm doing called CRAS.
There's many different aspects of Ladybug that aren't that thing.
Exactly. So another thing I really like in Access is they're just like, what if we don't have to have all these definitions? Like, what if we're all infinite beings?
Right.
So I mean, that's maybe woo-woo too, but it's just like, what if, we're just these weird, wonderful creatures that get to coexist together and create magic.
Right.
Rather than all the like, I've got my tiger stripes or whatever, and
right.
Guys
rather than
not
self-talking your way
respect
out of
that is merited. I mean, guys are beautiful, wonderful creatures too, and I think it's accurate that they don't get as much. There's not. I don't know a school of manly arts. I know like certain brotherhoods.
Right.
But yeah,
they usually get called misogynist.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, and yet men are such wonderful, amazing contributors.
And we have different desires. Yes, of course. Yes.
People, like,
but like
we're all infinite. But yeah.
Right. But like as an example, holding space for like little boys to be little boys.
Yeah.
Especially besides all the political whatever. I'm not going to necessarily get into that, but I'm saying as far as there's a Christina Hoff Sommers talks a lot about it. I have not read her books. I put it on my fucking wish list, on my list to read. But I've seen a lot of her talks and stuff. And she has one called The War on Boys. And like as far as the communication, the energies, the things that we fucking need, there's no respect or honor or whatever for that. It's just like, no, don't do this. No, don't do that. You shouldn't be you should learn how girls learn. You should speak how girls speak. You should whatever. And it zaps, I'm not saying that's the only thing, many things do, but it zaps the masculinity out of boys until they are dishonest with the animals inside of them. And then who suffers? Not just boys, not just men. They do. Women do. Because they like girls. You like masculine. You like masculinity. You like men. Stop making us into fucking girls.
Yeah. I mean, Alison Armstrong talks about that specifically. She says we not only measure men, we measure men as being not only, we want them to be perfect, and we want them to be perfect women. Mm-hmm. So it's not even like they get to be dudes. Yeah. Like, we're measuring them based on what we would quote unquote like define as the perfect woman. Right. Like that's like a no-win situation for a guy. Right.
And the only way to fix that, in my personal, or not the only way, but one of the ways, I think the main way, is for men to put up boundaries for you motherfuckers. Because that's the thing. I had somebody a few episodes ago, Michelle Bologna, and spiritual, and we talked a little about it. And her idea was, women need to hold space for men to become the animals that they are, for men to, whatever. I disagree with that because, again, we're playing by your rules. We're playing by the set. We need to be here. No, you don't. You fucking don't. Okay. Like, and not with anger necessarily.
Do you think?
But with respect for the animal that we are, with respect for the animal that you are. Mm-hmm. If you and I are walking in the woods thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, someone needs to hold the baby and someone needs to stab the wolf. Yeah. If my bicep is stronger than yours,
it only makes sense.
Who's in charge of what? So when it comes to societally, culturally, school-wise, yes, that's a difficult thing. But there are schools opening up, much more private, much more whatever. I mean, even in my university, in my school, almost no woke shit comes in. It's all just about audio and arts and whatever. So I appreciate that about my college. But a part of that is in schools and understanding what boys and men need. And part of that is for men to be willing to take the L, meaning be willing to take the loss of women's respect, acceptance, want, desire. As Patrice O'Neill, everybody cover your ears, as Patrice O'Neill used to put it, sometimes women subconsciously or otherwise hold the pussy hostage, he said. It's like, okay, I'll give you, I'll give you the openness, or I might fuck you if you play by all my rules. Part of men's job to get us out of that hole is to go, take it, I don't care. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to show up my truth. I'm going to hold space for myself and simultaneously not only be able to sleep at night, but also you're going to want and respect me better anyway. Or I'm going to attract women who are actually self-aware and open to me being myself.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about earlier.
That's a beautiful thing.
Right.
Like, what else is possible with men being able to be men?
Right.
That I welcome it.
Right.
Maybe you could start a movement.
Yeah, we're all going to jerk off. We're going to start fucking call it the circle jerk.
I mean, there's something to this idea of the boundaries, although when you put up boundaries, who's behind the boundaries? You are. Like, and what else is possible?
Well, boundaries might be a flippant word for it, but you understand what I'm saying.
But, like solidarity or space, like...
Yes, space.
Get it.
And especially when it comes to little things, little subconscious things, little, not even just in relationships, but in everything. Sometimes, intuition needs to be respected more than it is. You know what I mean? And sometimes certain people do little things, not even maliciously, but we test each other to see, okay, where's the line? Everybody has had a boss or a coworker or somebody in their life who has pushed you and moved that envelope over and over and over to the point where, okay, now you want to set a boundary. It's too late. If you set a boundary, it's going to mean the dissolution of our relationship. Mm-hmm. When what serves us and me better is once I smell it to be like, are you doing this? Not maliciously, not aggressively, but just here's what I feel. Mm-hmm. And be willing to take the L if it means, oh, I can't manipulate this person? Fine, I'm going to run away. Fine, run away. Go. Because I want real motherfuckers. I want real women. I want good people in my life. People who are in the spiritual world are much more open. Women I've found, not always, but are much more open to when you're aware of yourself. You don't want to punish people, even if that person has a penis. You don't want to punish people. You don't want to excise, truth whenever, in whatever form it comes. You hold space, you honor, accept, allow, whatever, So.
Honor. Let's see. Will we remember? Honor, trust,
gratitude, allowance.
One more. Begins with a V.
Clit stimulation.
Vulnerability.
It did begin with a V. So let's start wrapping up a little bit.
Awesome. It's been so lovely.
It has been good.
With you.
Yeah, it has.
And you all out there.
Yeah, in conservatish land. Hey. No, this has been a great conversation.
So good. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Where can people find you?
Oh, where can people find me? That's such a good question. I guess livingblog.net.
Living blog.
Which is that's under construction because Ladybug gets to make her mark. I mean, is it weird to give my phone number?
I don't think so, but this is going to be up on, what about an email instead?
Honestly, it's easier to catch me on my phone. Is that weird?
No, it's
Does anyone do that?
No one does that. But only because this is going to be on the internet probably forever. So it might be best to
not do that.
Yeah, I would think. Not that I don't trust my people, but what if I blow up, get real famous, and then
of course you're going to blow up and get famous.
But I don't trust everybody who listens to me.
All right, I'll give my email. It's SARAWELLOCK@gmail.com. So yeah, you can contact me if you want to come to Caress on Zoom or have a symphony session.
Right.
Or do any of the other million things that I do in the world. I do matchmaking, romantic matchmaking.
Yeah, we didn't even fucking talk about that.
I do an ongoing performance piece. There's so much.
Right, and she needs hot guys to be able to hook up.
I always enjoy meeting hot guys. To match with my clients. Of course. Yes.
She doesn't taste test beforehand. That's what
Yeah, there's so many things that I'm doing in the world. I'm super excited about all of them, and I welcome anyone who's interested to find me. And I appreciate having the opportunity to talk with you.
I appreciate you coming on. This has been a great conversation.
My pleasure.
And we didn't talk about politics once. Aren't you so happy? This is what I'm saying. This is why conservatish is conservatish. There's a heavy on the ish. This is about life. This is about humans, motherfucker. Self-care, bitch. All right. Thank you very much, Sara Jane, a.k.a. Ladybug, a.k.a. livingblog.net. Wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share this, make sure you rate, make sure you leave a comment, send some love. You can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. You can find me on Twitter at Rule62Peter. You can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/conservatish. Listen to my music on all platforms. And you can just find it by looking up my name. And anything else? No, that's it.
Men, potency and power to the men. How about that? I'm helping you with your movement. But I shouldn't, because it's your movement. I don't want to get in the way of it. But I support you.
All right. I was gonna say something about potency, but I'll keep my mouth shut. Okay. Only because we gotta end and I gotta piss.
Okay, thanks. So, take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Peace out.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you.
Amazing.